Throughout most of human history, people have been ruled by centralized hierarchies. And contrary to common belief, the Israelis, the Israelites, they didn't want a god. They wanted a king like their powerful neighbors, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, with all their grandeur and power. The greatest wonders of this earth were built not by distributed networks, but by centralized monarchs in power. Even up to Shakespeare, probably the greatest writer to ever live, believed in this myth as well. Because in all of its plays, in all of his writings, he never mentions this word networks. Because his whole worldview is dominated by kings and queens, princes and princesses. And so the greatest writer that's ever lived never got to write the great story of the power of distributed networks and what is it about to build. But we live in a different world today. We live in a connected world. Parag Khanna, the scholar, calls it the age of connectivity because of the human will to connect people and empower people. If we count up all the transportation networks, the energy grids, and the wireless networks that connect us today, it is 10x more than the borders that separate us into different countries. Here are two great examples of massive building projects. One on your left is a train, which is the most exemplary project from the industrial age. And Wikipedia, whom we also know too, it's an exemplary project from the information age. But what's most interesting about these two massive building projects is one was built in a centralized way and the other a decentralized way. And that was the promise of the internet, to live in a world without borders. We are no longer Homo sapien, we are Homo dictius. And Homo dictius just means networked man or networked human. We are about to connect. And so this is the reason why myself and people, I think a lot of people in this room got into this industry because of the internet. It was supposed to be open. It was supposed to connect people with free of knowledge. But it was the convergence of a few powers. One, because the VCs in the early 2000s funded companies that would own your data. And then what emerged was the trifecta of big data, of AI, and the cloud that came to own all of your data, that came to own all of your identity. And what it produced was an internet of walls. And this result, as we'll see later, is a world of walled gardens. Is big, anti-competitive, addictive, and destructive. Bad is what the economist calls it. The big data, AI, cloud companies. But Bitcoin happened. And Bitcoin was the first protocol to not only transcend physical borders, but even the walled gardens the Internet 2.0 companies set up. And this was the first Bitcoin Genesis block. And so what does HTC have anything to do with this? What does HTC play in this drama and dialogue between hierarchies and networks? HTC built phones. We build devices in the margins of the cloud. And if you look at HTC's history, from the first Android phone to the best VR headset, it's built phones. For the past 20 years, since 2007, it has shipped over 100 million phones. It's proven itself that it can build trusted hardware. It's proven itself that it can understand the mobile user and providing a user-friendly interface. And so we're starting with the wallet. We think that the wallet is the most important part of crypto, in the crypto space right now. And we believe this may be the most disruptive technologies coming in the next few years. We believe the wallet on the phone is like the App Store, what the App Store did to the smartphone space in 2008. And so our short-term goal in phase one, we want to introduce these three concepts into the wallet. First is to hold your own keys. And this idea is actually a very, very disruptive idea because it's the first time in human history that a user becomes their own bank. You hold your own keys. And of course, the next question becomes, what if you lose your phone? In the next coming months, we will also announce what's our social key recovery mechanism. And of course, finally, we'll be releasing a key management API where we allow developers to build on top of this wallet. But today, we are launching two things. First, we're going to launch later this early access to the Exodus. We'll actually be doing you can go to our website to reserve your Exodus phone. But number two, we want to talk about this idea of fungible and non-fungible concept. Fungible is like Bitcoin. It doesn't make a difference between if you have this Bitcoin or that Bitcoin. And non-fungible is a very interesting concept that Bitcoin has introduced, this idea of digital scarcity. And so before we talk about that, we want to talk about two big forces, two big trends that have taken us in a direction that maybe we didn't intend to. First is this idea of network versus content, and the second being access versus ownership. 10 years ago in Hollywood, people might have said that content is king. I think by today, we're very, very clear that content is not king. The network is the king. If you add up all the present value market cap of Disney, of Comcast, of Fox, any of the big GAFA-backed companies can acquire all these companies. And it's clear in last week's The Economist that Netflix, of course, being one of the biggest network companies, they own Hollywood. They own the content companies because it's about owning the user. It's about owning your data. The second trend we're talking about is this idea of access over ownership. Now, most of us are millennials in here, and we don't need to own a car, we just Uber. We don't need to own a house, we just Airbnb it. We don't need to own things because it's about access and ownership. But the question I want to pose today is, has that pendulum swung too far for access instead of ownership? Does it still mean something to own? Whether it's your identity, whether it's your content, whether it's your data. And GAFA and BAT are those monuments today. These are the big centralized companies that own your identity, that own your data, that own all the access that you want to all of these services. And so today, one of the things we're launching is CryptoKitties, which will be the first time you get access to CryptoKitties on a mobile Android phone. And so here I want to share a quick video. cats. What's so significant about cats? Cats actually played an important role in the development of social media, too. If you all know that one of the most viewed pieces of content on YouTube was about cats. And even Google's neural net, because of all the data that came from YouTube, cats was one of the first time neural nets was able to use image recognition to recognize cats. And hence, cats today will plays an inaugural role in the release of blockchain gaming and collectibles. This is the first time where when you acquire, when you build, or when you release a cat, that you actually have a unique cat. And so this idea of digital scarcity is significant because it's the first time somebody creating a virtual good or a piece of content on digital can be digitally scarce. And we believe this to be one of the keys to giving power back to the creatives. Now, any creative that wants to create something in digital can create something of unique value. And we have two partnerships that we're announcing today that are in this non-fungible digital scarce. The number one, the first company is a company called Animoca. I think a lot of people here in Hong Kong know Animoca because it's the CEO, Yat, is a well-known Hong Kong entrepreneur. But as you can imagine, Animoca Brands owns many brands such as Astro Boy, such as Garfield, such as Hello Kitty. And we, in the coming months, want to start building these non-fungible token, digital scarce virtual goods with these brands. The second company is a company called Bitmark, which is the CEO, his name is Sean. And we're launching this high-end contemporary art with him. Because with Bitmark, they're the world leaders on this idea of data provenance. Because in the high-end art world, what makes a painting valuable is about data provenance. What is data provenance? It's just the chain, a ledger that shows who owned the painting at what time. And so if Henri Matisse bought the painting, then sold it to the British Museum, then sold it to an individual buyer, that chain of ownership is part of what makes that painting valuable. And so this particular artist, his name is Casey Reyes. He's a very well-known artist that creates these digital art pieces. And with Bitmark, in the coming months, they'll be launching this digital high-end contemporary art. And so today, we want to start with an early access to our Exodus. And in our wallets, what we'll be collecting is these collectibles, starting with crypto kitties, but in the future, more of these blockchain gaming and collectible items. And of course, our wallet will support many, many different cryptocurrencies. And finally, we're here not to say that we have all the answers about the crypto space. We're starting with a secure wallet with trusted hardware. And we also want to partner with people like you who are here to build the future with us. We are here to partner with many people here who are building protocols or infrastructure for the blockchain space. We know that it's still very, very early right now, but we know that we need your help. So come to our website and reserve yours today. Thank you.